She trusted him with her heart and her cafe. Then she saw him with her employee. You are watching YouTube channel Lily's Loving Echoes. If you like our story, please like and subscribe. Press the bell icon to get notified of our upcoming videos. The story opens with a warm, intimate portrait of her life. The woman, early 40s, confident yet quietly vulnerable, managing her own coffee shop with care and pride. The cafe is a sanctuary, a place where the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingles with the soft hum of conversation. The narrator, a 24-year-old man who is observant and emotionally aware, notices her not just for her beauty, but for the gentle authority she carries, the way her hands move with purpose when she froths milk or arranges pastries. There's admiration in every glance, a quiet respect for her resilience and charm. We meet the husband subtly in this first part, establishing his presence through small details. The way he smiles at her in the morning, the casual comfort they share, but hints of tension linger. Maybe a fleeting frown, a distracted tone, small cues the narrator notices, foreshadowing the cracks beneath the surface. Emotionally, the audience is drawn into the woman's world, the warmth, the routine, the pride she feels in her cafe. The narrator's internal voice provides insight into his perception of her strength and grace, but also his own hesitations. He notices the way her eyes light up when a regular customer comes in, how she laughs easily with them, and he feels both admiration and a subtle longing he doesn't yet name. Sensory details ground the story: the aroma of roasted coffee beans, the soft clink of ceramic mugs, the faint rustle of pages from a newspaper left on a corner table. These small, tangible details create an immersive atmosphere, making the audience feel like they're standing just behind the counter, observing the subtle rhythm of her life. By the end of Keynote 1, the emotional goal is clear. The audience feels the warmth of her world, understands her dedication and vulnerability, and begins to sense that something, an unseen tension, is about to disrupt this carefully curated life. The slow, observant build sets the stage for betrayal, but first, we linger in this delicate, human, and deeply relatable moment. The day begins like any other at the cafe, the warm morning light streaming through the windows, catching the soft curve of her smile as she greets her first customers. There's a comforting rhythm to her routine, the way she presses the espresso machine, arranges the pastries, and chats with the regulars. Yet, beneath the surface, the narrator notices subtle changes in the atmosphere, small ripples that hint at unease. Her husband enters briefly, ostensibly with a smile and casual affection, but there's a tension in the way he lingers near one of the newer employees, the waitress, younger, cheerful, and striking in a fresh, vibrant way. The narrator, observing quietly from a corner, senses the charged energy between them. The touches are brief but intimate, a hand on the small of her back, a lingering laugh shared too long, a glance that feels private. It's subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else, but for someone attuned to emotion, it resonates like a warning bell. Emotionally, this keynote is about the narrator's growing awareness and the audience's first taste of tension. He notices how the woman interacts with her husband. There's warmth, yes, but also a flicker of concern in her eyes, a hesitation in her gestures that suggests she senses something unspoken. The audience feels her vulnerability through his perspective, creating empathy and suspense. Sensory details deepen the immersion. The hiss of the espresso machine punctuates the quiet moments. The clatter of mugs on the counter is slightly sharper than usual. The air carries the faint tang of tension alongside the rich aroma of coffee. The narrator notes how the waitress moves with effortless charm, how her laughter rings in the space and seems to draw the husband's attention in ways that make the heart sink, even if nothing overt has happened yet. By the end of Keynote 2, the emotional goal is clear. The audience senses that cracks are appearing in what seemed like a secure life. Suspicion and subtle jealousy begin to emerge, led with admiration and warmth for the woman. The slow burn tension builds, setting the stage for the betrayal to come, while keeping the story grounded in emotional realism and sensory richness. The cafe, once a sanctuary of comfort and routine, begins to feel subtly charged, as though the air itself has shifted. The narrator observes her husband and the young waitress together more frequently now, their interactions lingering just a little too long, their smiles a fraction too knowing. It isn't loud or obvious, there are no confrontations yet, but the tension hums beneath the surface, perceptible to anyone who watches closely. Emotionally, this keynote centers on observation, hesitation, and growing unease. The narrator sees the woman, the cafe owner, moving through her day with practiced grace, yet there's a new weight to her steps, a quiet pause when her husband approaches. She notices things too, the shared jokes, the subtle touches she can't see but senses, and a flicker of doubt passes over her face. She's proud and composed, but the audience feels the first threads of betrayal tugging at her heart. The affair itself is implied rather than explicit. The young waitress leans slightly closer than necessary when handing over a cup of coffee. The husband's hand brushes hers in a casual yet intimate way, and sometimes their laughter lingers in a corner of the cafe, just out of earshot. The narrator notices all these small signals, his emotions a mixture of sympathy for the woman and frustration at the husband's disregard. Sensory-rich details heighten the immersion. The clink of ceramic cups punctuates hushed conversations. The warm aroma of coffee now seems tinged with unease, and sunlight slants through the cafe windows, illuminating the subtle expressions on the woman's face as she processes what she senses but cannot yet confirm. The narrator's internal voice provides perspective on her quiet strength, her dignity, and the vulnerability she hides behind composure. By the end of Keynote 3, the emotional stakes rise. The audience feels the pull of forbidden attraction between the husband and the waitress, the growing awareness of betrayal, and the woman's emerging suspicion, all while the narrator's perspective keeps the tension human and relatable. The slow burn pace ensures that every glance, every brush of a hand, carries weight, setting the stage for confrontation and emotional reckoning in the chapters to come. The cafe, once a place of comfort and routine, now carries a quiet tension. The narrator observes her carefully, noting the subtle changes in her demeanor, the way she pauses mid-motion, the brief tightening of her jaw, the distant look in her eyes when her husband laughs a little too easily with the waitress. The warmth of the cafe seems to dim, replaced by the weight of unspoken questions. Emotionally, this keynote focuses on the woman's growing suspicion and the internal struggle it brings. She is proud, composed, and careful, yet there are moments when her vulnerability surfaces, a tremor in her hands as she serves a customer, a sudden sharp intake of breath when she glimpses her husband and the waitress sharing a private laugh. The narrator sees it all, sensing both her strength and the quiet ache of betrayal beginning to form in her chest. The audience feels her inner conflict, wanting to confront the truth yet fearing what it might reveal. The tension escalates subtly but powerfully. The husband's behavior is still casual, yet the narrator notices the small gestures that carry intimacy, a lingering hand on the waitress's shoulder, a shared joke with a hint of secrecy, eyes meeting in ways that exclude the woman entirely. The narrator's perspective emphasizes the emotional weight of these moments, capturing the audience's empathy for her while hinting at the brewing storm. Sensory details intensify the scene. The cafe smells of rich coffee, but it's now tinged with the sharp undercurrent of anxiety. The clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation feel louder, more intrusive. The sunlight streaming through the windows highlights fleeting expressions of hurt and suspicion. The narrator notes every glance, every shift in posture, every micro-expression, creating a vivid tapestry of unspoken emotion. By the end of Keynote 4, the emotional stakes reach a peak. Suspicion has fully taken root, and the audience senses that a confrontation, whether direct or emotional, is imminent. The slow burn tension tightens, with the narrative highlighting the woman's inner struggle, the husband's betrayal, and the narrator's empathetic observations. Every glance, every pause, every brush of a hand becomes charged, setting the stage for the heart-wrenching revelation that will follow in the next part. The moment of revelation arrives subtly yet shatters the calm the woman had tried to maintain. The narrator watches as she notices the truth, her husband's betrayal with the waitress, through a combination of small, undeniable signs, a shared text left carelessly on the counter, a lingering look caught from across the cafe, the way her husband's hand brushed as not in affection but in familiarity with someone else. It is not loud, and no confrontation is needed yet. The audience feels the impact through her perspective, and through the narrator's sensitive, observant voice. Emotionally, this keynote focuses on shock, hurt, and disbelief. The woman's composed exterior falters for the first time. She feels a sharp ache in her chest, a tightening that makes her pause mid-step, yet she remains dignified. Her hand shakes slightly as she arranges cups, her mind racing with questions and hurt. The narrator captures this with gentle empathy, highlighting her resilience even in the face of profound emotional pain. The betrayal is palpable but shown through subtle, YouTube-safe cues. The way her husband and the waitress laugh too easily together, the subtle leaning toward each other as if the world around them does not exist, the soft brush of hands that once belonged to her. Every detail communicates intimacy misused and trust broken. The narrator's perspective emphasizes her quiet strength and the heartbreak of realizing someone she loved and trusted has chosen secrecy and betrayal over honesty. Sensory-rich details heighten the scene. The aroma of coffee feels suddenly bitter, the ambient hum of the cafe turns heavy, the sunlight casting long shadows across the floor mirrors the darkness settling in her heart. Even the simple act of touching a mug feels grounding, yet loaded with emotional weight. The narrator's inner voice observes every micro-expression, every tense posture, every fleeting glance that signals both shame and deceit. By the end of Keynote 5, the emotional stakes are at their highest. The betrayal is undeniable, and the audience feels the profound impact on the woman. The stage is set for emotional confrontation, self-reflection, and choices about trust and boundaries. The slow burn tension peaks here, with heartbreak and vulnerability fully exposed, paving the way for either reconciliation, resolution, or moving forward in the coming chapters. The cafe, once a haven of warmth and routine, now feels like the stage for an emotional reckoning. The woman stands with a quiet strength, gathering herself, as the narrator observes her prepare to face the truth head-on. The atmosphere is heavy but intimate, filled with the scent of coffee and the soft rustle of activity around them. Every small sound, the clink of a cup, the hum of conversation, feels amplified in the tension-charged space. Emotionally, this keynote dives deep into vulnerability, honesty, and the courage to confront betrayal. She approaches her husband with measured calm, her voice steady but carrying the weight of hurt. The narrator senses her mix of anger, sadness, and quiet determination. He observes the subtle shifts in body language, the way her hands grip the counter for grounding, the way her eyes search for answers, the slight tremor in her posture that belies the storm inside. The confrontation is not loud or melodramatic but profoundly human. She asks the questions that have been haunting her, small, deliberate, cutting through the pretense. Her husband stumbles under the weight of truth, unable to hide the betrayal any longer. The young waitress's presence, though quiet, accentuates the emotional tension. A lingering glance, a subtle hesitation, an acknowledgement that boundaries have been crossed. Sensory-rich details anchor the scene. Sunlight falls through the windows, highlighting fleeting expressions of shame, guilt, and hurt. The aroma of coffee mingles with tension. The warm clatter of mugs contrasts sharply with the emotional coldness of the betrayal. The narrator notes the micro-moments, the tightening of a jaw, the downward glance, the pause before a response, that communicate more than words ever could. By the end of Keynote 6, the emotional goal is clear. The truth has been fully revealed, and raw feelings are out in the open. There is no immediate resolution yet, but the woman's quiet strength shines through. The audience feels both the pain of betrayal and the courage it takes to confront it, setting the stage for the final act, emotional closure, decision-making, and the ultimate resolution of relationships. The slow burn tension begins to release, preparing the story to reach its emotionally satisfying conclusion. The cafe, which has witnessed warmth, laughter, and now heartbreak, becomes a place of quiet reflection. The woman moves through it with a newfound clarity. The betrayal is no longer a whisper or suspicion. It has been confronted, acknowledged, and weighed. The narrator observes her with admiration, noting the resilience that allows her to hold her head high even when her heart feels heavy. Every step she takes, every gesture, arranging cups, wiping the counter, greeting a regular, carries the subtle grace of someone who has faced emotional truth and refuses to let it break her. Emotionally, this keynote focuses on acceptance, healing, and the reclamation of personal strength. She has confronted her husband and seen his remorse, but she does not allow the situation to define her. There is an acknowledgement of hurt, yes, but also a quiet understanding of her worth and her boundaries. The audience experiences her journey through the narrator's observant lens. He notices the softening of her expression as she allows herself to breathe again, the small smiles that hint at inner peace, the way her eyes linger on the cafe space she has built, a sanctuary that belongs to her, no one else. The husband, meanwhile, retreats into reflection and remorse, understanding that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. The young waitress fades into the background of the story, her role in the betrayal acknowledged but no longer central to the emotional journey. The focus shifts to the woman and her emotional reclamation. Sensory-rich details reinforce the mood of closure. The warm aroma of coffee now carries comfort rather than tension. Sunlight spills across the tables with gentle reassurance, and the soft hum of conversation feels lighter, more natural. Even the clink of cups feels like rhythm restored to the day. The narrator's perspective captures every nuanced shift, the lingering sigh of relief, the deep inhale of regained composure, the fleeting but meaningful glance exchanged with someone who sees her strength. By the end of Keynote 7, the story reaches an emotionally satisfying conclusion. The betrayal has been faced, the heartache acknowledged, and the woman emerges stronger, secure in her own space and self-worth. The slow burn arc closes gracefully, leaving the audience with a sense of resolution, emotional depth, and respect for the complexity of human relationships. Whether the future includes reconciliation, friendship, or personal independence, the narrative affirms that strength and dignity prevail.